49ers versus Jets coming up on Monday night. Outside of the Packers-Eagles game, because I am a Packers fan, of course that's the game I'm most excited about, I would probably say this is the game where I am the most intrigued about outside of the Packers game. The biggest reason being Aaron Rodgers. I think everyone is wondering how he's going to look in his first season here with the Jets. And one of my big questions is, has he lost a step? Because he hasn't really played football in basically 2 years. Missed all of last season outside of those 4 snaps, which we already talked about. Just a sad start to the year last year. He's 40 years old, and he's coming off an Achilles injury. There are a lot of reasons, I think, to be a little bit hesitant to say that it's going to be the same Aaron Rodgers that we have seen in years past. I'm hopeful because I think that best case scenario for pretty much most NFL fans is Aaron Rodgers playing at an Aaron Rodgers level and getting to see him in the playoffs. And even though he's not in Green Bay, I would like to see him win a Super Bowl. Of course, if the Packers are there, I'm not rooting against the Packers, no doubt about that. But if the Packers don't make it to Super Bowl, I'm going to be cheering for Aaron Rodgers because I want to see him win his second Super Bowl. I think that during his time in Green Bay, if he would have had better defenses overall, I really do think he would have won 2-3 Super Bowls because there are so many games where it was the defense that really held the Packers back. Aaron Rodgers, his offenses have scored more points per average than Tom Brady in the playoffs. And so I think one of the biggest things holding him back was those defenses over the years. And that's the really cool thing about going to New York is that they have one of the better defenses in the NFL. And that was the one thing, the reason the Jets made the move for Aaron Rodgers is they consistently completely missed on quarterback. And if we look at the Jets quarterback's passer rating, the last 6 seasons, 3 of the years are Sam Darnold, 3 of the years are mainly Zach Wilson. But we have 77.6, 84.3, 72.7, 69.7, 72.8, 77.2. So one average-ish year at 84.3. Outside of that, quarterback ratings in the 70s and the 60s. That's some real bad quarterback play. And I don't think passer rating is the ultimate stat. I think that with different stats, it's important to look at different ones to gauge how quarterbacks play, but I think it's a pretty reliable stat in lots of instances. And if we look at Aaron Rodgers, in his final season in Green Bay in 2022, which was one of the worst years of his career, he still had a 91.1 passer rating. That's with a fractured thumb, dealt with that lots of the season. And so if Rodgers were to have another down year for Aaron Rodgers, for Aaron Rodgers type seasons, type play, it would be much better than the Jets have had in the past 6 years. And so it's not like Aaron Rodgers needs to be MVP caliber Aaron Rodgers to take this Jets team over the top to make them win a Super Bowl. If he's just even if he's in the 10 to 15 range among quarterbacks, this is a very competitive Jets team because of how good their defense is, the 12th best scoring defense last year. And last year, the Jets only scored 15.8 points per game, which was 29th in the NFL. It was just a pain. It was really painful to try to watch the Jets move the ball. Nothing worked. Nothing worked whatsoever, and hopefully Aaron Rodgers can do that so that Jets games can actually be watchable and you don't want to, turn the channel immediately when the offense steps on the field. And they still went 7-10 last season. So I do think the Jets will make the playoffs. And I do think Aaron Rodgers will have a good year, but there are questions there. And so the matchup coming up on Monday night against the 49ers, it's a tough defense to have to start off with coming off of 2 years not playing. This is one of the best defenses in the entire league. They do have one of their weak spots, I would say, is their rush defense, where last year they were 26 in defensive rush EPA last season. And so that is very good news for Breece Hall, who has been, going to the top of most fantasy drafts, maybe behind Christian McCaffrey. I think that he's really, really going to have a massive breakout season this year. And I think that the Jets are going to want to feed him early and often against this 49ers defense. And when you face the 49ers, so often they get off to huge, massive leads and then are able to really dictate things and make offenses one-dimensional where they have to pass the ball. And considering the rush defense is one of their weaker spots, you want to be able to rely on the run throughout the game to sort of take advantage of that weakness. And so when you look at the rest of this Jets defense, they were 6th in EPA per pass allowed, so a very, very good secondary. They did lose Arik Armstead on the defensive line, and the Jets made a ton of moves on the offensive line to try to protect Aaron Rodgers. I think that was a very necessary move. They signed Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses, drafted Olu Fashanu. But there are some worries when it comes to the health of these guys. Tyron Smith played in the past 4 seasons. Played in 2 games, 11 games, 4 games, and 13 games, and he's 33 years old, as is Morgan Moses. And so hopefully they stay healthy. If they do stay healthy, I think this is a very, very good Jets offensive line. And moving to the other side of the ball, the 49ers offensive line, outside of Trent Williams, isn't that good. I think they're okay, but you look at last year, their pressure percentage allowed, they were 17th in the NFL last season. So not great. The thing is, if you try to bring the blitz against this offense, against Brock Purdy, it's typically a very, very poor idea. You look at the numbers. Brock Purdy versus the blitz last year, 134.6 passer rating to a only 103 passer rating when not blitz. And Kyle Shanahan, he's so good at skimming up plays and getting the ball out quickly to their plethora of weapons. Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel. Now Brandon Ayuk is back, and those contract issues, contract disputes now seem to be a thing of the past. Ayuk was doing his best to get the money he thought he deserved, which I believe he ended up getting. And so this has been one of the best offenses in the NFL for a good while now, and Brock Purdy does a very, very good job of being that game manager, not necessarily in a bad way. He manages the game well, which is, I think, a good aspect of a quarterback. You would hope that any quarterback can manage the game as well as Brock Purdy can manage the game. But he operates in Kyle Shanahan's scheme so well, and so they are facing a very, very good Jets defense. And so it's going to be a tough test, I think, for the Niners to consistently move the ball. It's going to be a tough test for the Jets to consistently move the ball because these are 2 of the better defenses in the NFL. And so when it comes to giving my final prediction here, because we don't exactly know how this Jets offense is going to look, because we haven't really seen Aaron Rodgers here in more than 4 snaps, just because of that uncertainty there, the fact that he is older, the fact that he is coming off an injury, I think it could take a little bit of time for this Jets offense to get clicking as they sort of work out some of the issues or knock off some of the rust in the offense in the first month of the season. I think that, what we see week 1 from Aaron Rodgers and this Jets offense could be night and day from what we see, week even 2, but like week 2, 3, 4, 5, as they sort of figure out how they really operate the best, and this is a very, very good 49ers defense. So I just don't think the Jets are going to be able to overpower the Niners in this one. And so I think it's going to be a 23-17 game. The 49ers win this one 23, Jets 17. I will be rooting for the Jets because I am a Aaron Rodgers fan. I will always be an Aaron Rodgers fan. He's probably my favorite NFL player all time. With him being on the Packers, and it was sad seeing him leave. Obviously, we seem to have struck gold with Jordan Love, and hopefully that continues for the rest of the season. So I'm going to be rooting for the Jets on Monday night. We'll see what happens. If you guys want to follow me on Twitter, LukeBeller3, if you want to see my thoughts during the games, if you follow that. So that's the first thing I wanted to touch on.